And the mystical world of spiritual awareness, where a world full of some millions of people who are fully attuned to that presence which we call God. Words like illumination, enlightenment, spirituality, mysticism. But they all take a back seat to the experience of one who truly is spiritual. First of all, they're more humble than anyone could ever dream or imagine. They're more hidden than anyone can dream or imagine. They're part of that which we call God. There is an actual God of the universe, but God's presence involves a sense, a reality, transcendent of everything we've ever felt or thought all of our life. But all of us who are spiritual know what it is. It doesn't make our life easier, it makes it impossible, because we can never express the truth of ourselves. I'm going to do that today. I'm moved to do, which I never do, and I'm concerned about doing it right now, but I'm moved to do it. So, say when I was younger, I'd meet many of the great people that are considered spiritual teachers in the world, and set up conferences in India, New York, Philadelphia, Virginia, Florida, whatever, well, you know, and help different people who were involved in the spiritual arts. And but I was aware very early on that I had already fought the dark side. I knew what the devil was, what all the presences and energies behind people are, the subpersonalities, and it takes an awful lot of humility to be that powerful. Because first of all, you're selfless, you're kind, you're true, you're dear to everyone around you. And second of all, it's utterly hidden. You know you can't tell anyone what it is. But if you said you were this or that, the other, God would not say that God is this, that, the other. And this is the connection, this is what I'm talking about. When you connect to God, you are involved with the humility that's indiscernible. You can't ever get there. But when God communicates with us, it's like we're the only person in the world, because to God we are the only person in the world, and you're dealing with a presence, of infinite humility, and there's a sunscape of trillions of star-like ecstatic presences that are all sub-personalities of God that are you, and you're God. You see what I'm saying? The humility of this thing, when you are spiritual, when you fought the dark side, is something that's never been expressed. You can't. And I move to do it today on behalf of all of us, that we can open ourselves up a little more to express who and what we are. And the reason for it is that this place we live in, it is in danger of, like, there are different words for it, but suicide, and we're all aware of it. And if you're in touch with this kind person that we call God, who is your heart and soul, it's not just subliminal, it's transcends consciousness, but you're aware of it. And if you're aware of that, the insanity of this world system is an insanity of this world system, and it will not touch you or your friends. You'll be able to lift your friends out of the fires of disbelief and faithlessness. You'll be more kind than a songbird in the early morning breeze, because you are that. You are the early mornings. You're a starlit sky. You're more precious to God than moonlight or treasures. You're stronger than gold, stronger than diamonds. You will live forever. And in this place, forget all the battering around of the day-to-day, which we'll go into today. You can live beyond it. You can transcend it. I certainly have throughout my life. No matter what's happening, I always understand it. Always. Even if I'm the victim or whatever the circumstance, it doesn't matter. But whenever someone is in need spiritually and I'm there, I can put out my hand and bring them in. First by listening, by caring, by being there. And people will know the holiness of your heart and soul by the touch of your hand, by the look of your eye. You're a spiritual presence in a lost realm, and it's all in consciousness. So if you're truly kind and real, and you'll know that the strongest weapon in this place, in the end of it, when you transcend the dark side, you know it's not there, there's only God, and the other is an illusory being. You can look the darkness in the face, and it will step away always. Always. So the sharpest weapon we have in the end of time, which is upon us, is a kind and true heart. That's why in Tibetan Buddhism, when they talk about, you have all these mystical states of consciousness. I live with my friends from there, and they visit me here, and lamas and so forth, and many, many, many monks and nuns and so forth. And you read in the writings, or you hear the great teachers, and they're talking about your mother a lot. Well, it's a mystical sense, so it's a human connection you have with God. God is humanity. Forget about in the mindset about the world, and that's what you check out of in spirituality. You get very quiet, and the world doesn't exist. Nothing's hard and fast. There's only this presence of God. And for spiritual people, which is what we're discussing today, that when we're in connection with that, I can't ever tell people that I'm this or that or the other, but I'm there for them. But for this empowerment moment, let's all agree to understand that we are that. But it's so endlessly transcendent and pure and simple and kind. It's lit up. You see the softness and warmth and kindness of this presence always. It's always with you. It's always you. For myself, I'm trying to make an excuse to my buddy, who was my master teacher in Jiu-Jitsu, Pedro Mink, the professor, teaches Jiu-Jitsu in our building, and Master G here, Greg Escolta, who's taught martial arts many, many years. And sometimes it's hard for me to tell them that why I can't be here and make a certain thing, because I sit in my chair and I disappear for hours, literally disappear. You'll feel so much presence. So much, it's hard to move. So, and relate this to all of us who are spiritual. There's nothing wrong with us. I remember in the 70s they talk about some sort of blood disorder or something, and some people might have had that. But if you're spiritual, if you're artistic, you're inclined to like music, like my buddy here, you can drift in and out of these states of awareness when you're in love. When you think of your mom, what she did for you, I'm saying that relates again to Tibetan Buddhism, to say that it's a human expression of the universe. Is these great mystical states are a kindness and a wonder, an appreciation of love. It's being in love with something more than love, and then you step into that, through that thought, into this place of unimaginable humility. You're not even here. And that's why I can sit in my chair for days or weeks sometimes, and at home or wherever I am, and not be here. A few times I had a place for many years in the Redwoods, and I'd be there and just wouldn't have to do anything, wouldn't want anything, couldn't do anything. Sometimes I'd take endless walks through the woods on my own, but just to sit out front or again in my chair near my fireplace, I'd just be forever. You fall into forever. It's a higher state of awareness. Again, it's been called nirvana, spirituality. It's a purity and a beauty. Like in my friend Hannah's atmosphere, there's a humility and a kindness and a simplicity that no one could know. But God knows it. And I'm begging you to know it and know why you're different. There's nothing lost about you, and it's nothing physical, it's nothing psychological, it's not even emotional, it's just you drift beyond anything that could be considered body consciousness into this higher state, this better way, this better place called God. And it's you. And when you're here, there is no material world. And that's why I'll say when I sit in my chair, it's just, there's no, and I can't explain it to anyone. That's what I'm saying about today about my martial arts teachers. You make up excuses sometimes, but basically you sit down, you can't move. You will feel, this will happen to you. I'm a spiritual teacher. It will happen to you. It's an empowerment session. It can't not happen. It will. Because that's the real world we live in. We don't live in this planet Earth, this craziness. We live beyond that. And beyond that is your mother's heart and soul, your best friend, the love of your life, the romance of your life. We're in this place together. That's where we are. And if you can know that and look the devil in the eye, then this won't be anymore. And my friend Susan George put together a book called After Time, where I describe all of this with great clarity, and I realize that I'm saying it today because I'm moved to, because I know that I understand all this. It is something wondrous and wonderful and real and true. And I'm simply saying, because I understand it and I haven't seen it written or spoken of in this way, please find that book if it's somewhere. I don't do anything online. I've never been on a computer. I actually am a mystical presence, and I hide that from my friends all the time when I can, because I'm not here. You're not here. And if you know this, you will have gifts and powers. They talk about these things in mystical literature and so forth, but they are gifts and powers, but they simply mean you live beyond this world. You'll fix everyone. You can fix any circumstance, any situation. You can live beyond it, always. And you just train yourself not to react to anything, to any noise, any feeling, any sickness, any hardship. And there's a certain training period there. I had friends that we would do that where we were helping combat veterans. We simply learned to sit absolutely quiet. Most of us had a very high intelligence, and my being very mystical, it was easy for me because I have an empathy I can naturally be there for someone else and not be there for me. Just truly be there for someone else. And that's why in Buddhism they'll talk about the mother, your mother. It's simply a place, a portal to remind you that these enormous states of consciousness are entered through love, through kindness, through appreciation, a great decency. It's so decent that you'll never tell anyone who you are, what you are, because you really can't, because you're nothing in this world. Last night I met a gentleman who went through something horrible, and I sat down to talk to him very quickly, because I saw it, and just sat and listened to him in the middle of something very raucous, and the last circumstance he would ever imagine to find something like this and get peace in the middle of a great tragedy, because I could just stop everything else and be there for the person. And I'm saying that we have to recognize that God has nothing else going on all day except to sit quietly with you, that you can understand your own case log and those stuff you've gone through all your life, and let go of any reaction to being here. You don't have to react to any sound, any sense, any feeling, any thought, and you'll be free. All you have to do is be aware of the person in front of you or near you and with you, and the world will disappear. I learned this with my friend. He was a combat Marine and a very, very serious person, and we would do and say things to each other to try to change each other's consciousness, because we're training ourselves to listen to combat veterans that have gone through hell. And if you're there, like, in this sense of divine respect for another soul, they'll feel that. They'll believe that. They'll know that. So I'm saying there's some training involved. My buddy and I would do anything to get each other's attention. And you'll see that all of your life that no one's ever actually listened to you. When you fall in love, now and then you'll have that for short periods of time. But if you train yourself to do this and you're aware of God, that's the idea of meditation. It's not for the individual to become more peaceful and become enlightenment. There's no individual when you're aware of the actual God. And we have to respect God for being God, even though God can never be known fully. But in this, you will have unimaginable conditions of awareness. You'll have endless visitations of holy ones, that we'll call teachers or whatever they call them, angels. But it's so pure and so wondrous. And the people you love in your life, or the history of this world, they'll be coming to you throughout this teaching period. And it will happen. There are many people I love to spend time with that I can never get to at this point, and of course I can't explain to anyone, as I'm explaining today for the first time in my life. Sometimes I can't move for days on end. I'm sitting in this condition. So I act like one of the guys I'm around, or I got to take care of whatever business is there, but your body is like a kite you control somehow. You can't believe it's quite there. Or more like a balloon, because it's floating. You're always transcendent of your body consciousness. Always. You are a dear heart. You're a precious soul. You're a divine teaching presence born into this hell to fix it quickly. Become quiet, attentive, caring, decent. The dark side will throw everything at you in different ways at different times. And you'll live through it. And you won't have to fight physically. And that's why my buddy Greg or Andre Sukumta, the UFC fighter, they all train in here or teach. Or my teacher, Pedro Menk, the great world champion and national champion of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I say I'm saying this because these are very, very, very spiritual. They're close to God in a way that it's just musical to be around them. They'll teach the young ladies or men that come here or throughout their lives, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, how to fight, but it's a spiritual discipline. There's no violence in it. When Greg, as a world champion, would step into the ring, or any of these guys, they're in and of that, but that's a small amount of people that actually want to do that or do that, and that's there. But as a spiritual discipline, you get over all of your fears. I'm simply saying in India, everyone did yoga. You did all the physical yoga because you're drifting all the time. That's where it all came from. It's not to make you handle your life, day-to-day life better. It's for people who are experiencing mystical states of consciousness. It's not yoga at a gym, and you can have great teachers or not, but it's the consciousness that must change. We must adore and worship Almighty, everlasting, infinite God, our Father, and ourself and our soul. God is a purity beyond anyone's dreams or thoughts or wishes or even experience. So though I experience it 24 hours a day, forever, I'm never there. You're always in awe. You look at your child, and Greg had his two sons there, he still looks at them that way. and now they're adults. So I'm saying we must have this kind of love for all the decent people in our life. But it's a love transcendent of the person, of their success in the world. You're always aware of the godness in them. That's why having a great dog or a wonderful cat like my friend Zachary, it's just beautiful to be able to love, isn't it? And that's what meditation brings you to. A state of eternal, everlasting, infinite love for our Father and our friend, Almighty God. And we'll discover a much greater love that God has for us and through us, for the whole world. And that's why we'll overcome all the darkness in the coming years. It's not a big deal. To me, it's nothingness. So Susan George put together the book After Time. I'm the author, Robert Rosenberg. You can find that somewhere and have it around. And a hard copy is good, whatever you like it, but it will cover every aspect of this in a very light, simple way to understand everything in the world and not to react to it. Everything. When you're close to God, you can express things in a sentence that have never been expressed fully or clearly. About illumination, enlightenment, about how clear you are on all the conditions of the world, the social, political, family, relationships, technological, anything. You're living beyond it always. It's very powerful, more than anyone could know. It's called the human heart. It's called the soul. And it's called you. Isn't it you? Are you tired of being thrown and tossed about here and there and just want to sit here quietly and enjoy the moonlight? I have my friend Susan, we can never see each other, but as buddies, she wrote my book, She Is Everything, but every now and then we text just how nice it would be just to have forget what words I can use. Anyway, with the vodka, what do we call it? Martini, there you go. I'm so not here, I can't even connect the thoughts, but the idea is that there is no world when you're mystical. I sit in my chair again for days, and I'm saying it for all of us, you feel kind of dizzy or not with it. If you ground yourself in this meditative condition, you'll be able to handle whatever you have to handle and still be aware of this 24 hours a day. Wouldn't that be a better way to live than carrying a placard down the street or having to be armed or anything? Or being afraid of someone all the time because they're bad, you know. When you get like this, like my buddy Peter and I, he did very serious work as a warrior, and I just always wanted him to let go of that part of his life. Because you don't have to fight anyone when you have God with you. Things change in the most subtle, unimaginable ways. And we've all been hit with guilt, with this, with that, with fear, and I understand that when something lays on me for days or weeks at a time, I know what it is, and I know I'll have to walk through it, and it's not fun many times. I'm not saying I'm thrilled and happy as a person all the time, but as a spiritual presence, I'm never unaware of God, and I always know I'll walk through it. And I know that the reason I've been thrown through every conceivable condition in this world all through my life is so that I can express this and teach, and when people have things wrong or that need to be fixed in any way, I can fix it. I have no doubt of that. You know, I invite different friends of my buddy who's a builder, a very powerful man, and not real happy about his life. I just insisted he get himself over here, and recently I said, come to Powerhouse Gym in Redwood City and we'll fix you. Because we have these great teaching presences, and we have the world's greatest astrologer, Jessica, here. So, and the happiest person, Donna. So we can't lose. There are people that are very close to God and rarely really know it. And if you know someone like that, Acknowledge it. Let them know you see who they are. And they'll feel shocked in a beautiful way, and then even when you tell them, they can't really believe it. People say thankful things to me all the time, and I fall inside myself like, I'm not here. Or I achieve certain things in my life and people are respectful for it, and I'm like, I'm more almost ashamed. Because I'm always here for you. Understand infinite kindness? That's what it is. You're there for the other person and you're living beyond the body. It's a wonderful place to be. And all you have to do is hear this, understand it, feel it, and a moment in time, talk to God, and God will talk to you. And when that starts to happen, and for everyone that understands this, this has happened throughout our life, hasn't it? In different ways, we always don't know that's what it is. But if we connect these words and thought to that time where we felt all was well, then all will be well forever. And you'll transcend the madness of this world. And you won't have to turn on the whatever and listen to this or see that or subscribe to anything. It just is. This is what's written about in the Holy Scripture, and I see it that way because my buddy reminded me the other day that you're the only person in the world that understands this, and I was in shock. This was Tuesday. I was like, yeah, and I think that's why I'm doing that today, because I do understand this. I remember sitting in the mountains in India 50 years ago, and first time I opened up to look at the New Testament, and was so thrilled to see that here were strong men that got to live their spirituality in a very direct way. And everything that's happening now is being said now is in the revelation, but it's poetic. It's not religious. It's not even serious. It just is. So you relieve yourself of these lower dimension emotions about it and just let go, and you'll discover God looking out from your eyes always. Isn't that a better way to live? And I'm saying that before we have a couple minutes here, a couple more minutes, is let this happen. Empower yourself now. Know the truth. Be the truth. And that'll be the fastest way to pull your friends and neighbors out of the horror that the dark force impinges upon the finenesses of our soul day and night. You don't have to react to anything. My buddy Greg, or Andre Sukumta, or Professor Peter Mink, the jiu-jitsu teacher, these men are made of a kind of steel that we don't understand even. I'm a martial artist, but not, they've had so many professional fights, they're simply kind, because in martial arts, it's a spiritual discipline from 1,500 years ago. Bodhidharma, but Buddhism to China from India and started the Shaolin monastery. So it's a mystical, for me it's completely mystical. It has nothing to do with martial arts. In the fighting sense, it's one spiritual discipline you keep leaving your fears behind when you discover you don't have to be afraid for this reason or that reason. And the subtle things that are psychological or emotional or spiritual, they fall by the wayside as soon as you stop experiencing fear. The idea of fear it's sliced off, and you get beyond all your fears at a certain point. When you don't have any physical fear, no emotional fear, no psychological fear, and all my friends that were world champions have had these moments, but when you're truly there, forgetting martial arts, that's one way, okay? There's so many ways. My way, my friend Peter, or Dr. G, or whatever, or Rosamond, who we put together the center, is just to sit there and be there for the other person. And you can be there in that same way. You can appreciate, it's not an emotional thing. I can get completely quiet and listen to someone all day, be there for them, acknowledge what they say, without ever allowing any of it to impinge on my fine senses. I'm just there for them. God is just there for us. Be there for our friends, for them, Don't involve yourself in the social political atmosphere. I'm not saying that you won't understand right from wrong all the time. But if someone's deluded, it's not your problem. If they want to be undiluted in your presence, they'll be undiluted. If they want to be deluded, they'll stay deluded in eternity. And that's how it ends. Not with a shot that rings out in the night, but it ends in the kindness of your heart and soul. That's power. Everything else is fear. I'm going to make a stand, or egotism. You're not going to do anything. You're going to be quiet like a church mouse. You'll be nobody. And the world will end in your consciousness. And the world will end in your consciousness. Be kind, be true. I'm not going to say be fearless, so that implies an enemy. There is no enemy. If you look Satan in the eye, whatever this lost beingness is, I have my friend that I've helped for many years, and because they had problems, and we all do, and because they see all the different beings behind people, then now I have them help me when I do what I'll call depossessions. That's a rough word for it, but simply people have sub-personalities. Sometimes they have other beings that are trapped behind them that are just lost, and they will glomp onto something. So if you stop being afraid, these beings won't glomp onto you. You can do it like through different art forms, like Greg, or you can just be free and understand and look at this thing behind someone. Well, my sister has such a, I'm not going to say my sister, because they're angels and they'll beat me up. If you're quiet and ask a person to look quietly inside themselves and to discuss with you what's going on in their mind and heart and soul and their fears and trepidations, that you'll find often a sub-personality, sometimes it'll be an actual being, and you have that person look at the actual presence that's bothering them, and that presence will be a lost being that flies off somewhere. In other words, there's all these different sub-personalities that people have that glomp onto you. That's the real world, beyond what seems to be. And if you help each other walk out of these difficulties, then the world won't exist. There is nothing physical. Because I'm a mystic, I can't even feel things. I have to really work at it to achieve things. When I work with Pedro Menk, professor, it's because he's quite spiritual, more spiritual than I in many ways. It's so I can roll with him. I can do martial arts because it's a joy. Greg is here. He teaches people to walk beyond their fears for 50, 60 years. My buddy was a world champion. His daughter, 10 years ago, and I just found a letter she wrote to me. It was very beautiful about how empowering it was to be a world champion, because Greg brought her in to do that. And everyone sees her now actually as like a fearless, young, beautiful lady, but it's just, you learn these things somewhere along the way if you find a teacher. Find a teacher in your heart. And teach the young, the old, the friends. You are God incarnate. Nevertheless, please capture that. Please. It's wonderful. It ends the madness. You're wonderful, you're true, you're pure, you're intelligent, God knows. In other words, you have to question yourself about something and understand. You understand more than everyone. There are no experts in the world about anything, because the world isn't here. As soon as you understand that, I was in a hospital the other day and I understood that the doctors I love everyone, it was all, no one knew what day it was. And like the people with kind hearts would shine like headlamps in the night to me, and I acknowledged them somehow. And because I'm a strong man. I can say hello to people in the street all the time, and they'll acknowledge you. But I'm not talking about walking down the streets. I'm talking about sitting quietly in your chair at night, sitting back and drifting off under the endless purity of the divine presence, which is you. You'll discover a oneness with God that is very true to your heart. Please understand you are a mystical presence. And that's how the world will end. Not with a whimper or a bang, just with a soft morning breeze. It's just, and that's it. God bless the holiness of your soul. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Mr. Skolbeck.